It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Gross, hands up, yes! Caught! Touchdown, they did it!
It's the Full Court Press. Jason Walker, Eric Frandsen here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM The Fan. Welcome on in to a Wednesday edition of the show. We had Eric Hount on the show to lead off the first hour. Utah State men's basketball associate head coach. Had a chance to check back in and get his view on this year's team and what it looks like. Obviously, his role with the team is someone who's in charge of the defense. Jared Calhoun, more of the offensive mastermind. And so bringing in a good, head coach, or associate head coach, that's half the job of being a head coach is having good assistants who can take some of the responsibility off of you to maybe run, and coach guys on one side of the ball, and you can coach the other side. And you work together and put together a good offensive and defensive combination. Obviously, it's both very important in the game of basketball. Well, I'm not sure of any sport where offense is more important, defense you can just ignore.
Yeah, no,
that doesn't really exist. Go to every sport, and there's offense and defense.
No, but clearly looking like this is going to be an aggressive and very active form of basketball for Utah State this season.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be fun. We saw a little bit of that last year. Danny Sprinkle's style is different, but it was aggressive. It was transition heavy. There was a lot of transition offense, and I think fans really enjoyed that. And it was a high-scoring team. I was worried it wasn't going to be high scoring at all. I thought when they moved the free ice cream promotion thing, did they move it to 75 or to 80? I can't remember where the line was and where they moved it to.
Oh, yeah.
But they moved it up by 5 or 10 points. It's they'll hit that twice all season. And they hit it 5 times in the first six home games. I was like, okay, this is a good offensive team. They've got some good things going on, but this team can certainly be just as effective on offense, I think, and even more versatile. And again, I don't know if they'll be better, but they'll be different, and they'll be elite in some areas. At least you're hoping they'll be elite in some areas. They'll have their weaknesses. We'll figure out what those are come November as they'll begin their season there. Just like last year's team had its weaknesses. They all have their weaknesses, but they're also going to have their strengths. So it'll be interesting to see all that. I'm very much looking forward to basketball season, men's and women's. I know we need to have Wes Brooks back on the show, or one of the players or assistant coaches, because I'm really excited to see what they've got cooking for their season as they try and make a program turnaround on the women's basketball side. But wanted to shift our focus this hour, Eric, to Utah State football. We had our preview Tuesday, our reaction Mondays. Wanted to touch once again on Utah State, maybe hear a little bit more from some of the coaches and players. I know you had a chance to go down and talk with Jordan Vincent and Otto. That was the plan. You did talk to both of them?
Yep, I did.
Okay. 2444 texting in before the show. We've been kind of holding off on this, but saying, I enjoyed listening to Eric's interviews with Jordan Vincent and Otto this afternoon. I know you published them on social media. We'll hear about them, or we'll hear them later in the show. But he said, hope to see both of them have big games on Saturday, in particular with Vincent. I've been incredibly impressed with his play so far this season. He's been very effective at both defending the pass and stopping the run, and seems to be the leader of the defense. Do you guys see him as the best or most important player of the defense at this point in the season? I think there's an argument to be made with his tackling. That is a tall order, because you do have a guy like John Ross May who's made a big impact. Ike Larson hasn't made his same dynamic, interceptions and all that. I think he did have the one pick against Robert Morris, or I think it was.
We had one against USC. It was called back because of a penalty.
Yeah, I feel like I thought he had at least one interception.
Yeah, he had one against Robert Morris.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, he had the one that was called back against USC. But yeah, you've had really consistent plays with Vincent and others. So I think you could very much make that argument for Jordan Vincent. I'm not as great at analyzing defensive players. Unfortunately, I'm not very good at scouting them and analyzing their impact because I'm looking at other parts of the field.
Yeah. He's definitely been a big impact player, and has quickly become a leader among. He leads the team in tackles. I always wonder about a team's defense if your safety leads the team in tackles. Usually you want a linebacker.
Yeah. Well, it depends because you got safeties playing in the box a whole lot more.
Yeah.
And especially because there's the free safety and strong safety, or sometimes they have different names, but some that'll focus more on coverage, some that are likely to spend more time in the box, likely to be closer to the line of scrimmage.
These hybrid safety linebacker and type positions.
Yeah, and so I know that tends to be the conventional wisdom, but I think even still, John Ross May is still one of the guys leading in tackles. And if a safety is kind of joining him, as long as you're still getting those explosive plays, then I think it's fine for Jordan Vince to be leading the team in tackles if he's just that dynamic.
Right. Yeah. So he is, and he's a vocal leader too. Besides what he does on the field. He has a lot of very strong leadership skills that is, I think, super valuable for this team. So many new faces, all the disruption that's happened off the field. And I think he's been super valuable to have in the locker room for this team this year.
So let's talk about bowl projections, because I kind of had that on my mind. I saw something earlier today on social media, and it got me thinking about Utah State going to a bowl game. And perhaps the more important question, the question I kind of want to ask both of us, really have us answer this question is Utah State more or less likely to make a bowl at this point? Or at least our expectations of whether they're more likely or less likely. Even though, this season, as far as the first 3 games, we've predicted it 100% correctly. We said they beat Robert Morris. They did. We said they'd lose to Utah and USC. They've done that. They're 1-2. They are pretty much meeting expectations to a T as far as win-loss total. Does anything change as far when you actually see the performances against Robert Morris, see the performance against USC Utah? Does any of that change? Although as far as bowl games, do you want to get to this text from 8968? It says, I will have to admit that I'm not too excited about any bowl game. In most cases, a good share of the games are just a showcase of average teams. Worse yet, the teams haven't wanted to be there. If the team doesn't want to be there, neither do I.
Yeah,
so that does bring another question. Is this even something we should be focusing on? Well, we are going to focus on it because Darren and I did a lot of preparation for this. We are going to talk about it.
It's on our agenda, so we will discuss.
But is that a worthwhile goal at this point?
I think that there have been years where getting to a bowl game has been super exciting for the team. And there have been years where going to a bowl game is one of the few things that we're interested about that time of year. I think it kind of depends on how you roll into it. Last year, there was controversy about the quarterback position. It was a struggle first part of the year. They kind of played their way into bowl contention at the back end of the season, which was kind of a repeat of the year prior. But it didn't feel like, hey, there's this building momentum. Hey, we're excited. We made it. It just felt like, okay.
Yeah, and they
qualified for a bowl again.
And they wanted to go to the bowl that was only a couple-hour drive away, so they wouldn't have to spend any money on it.
Yeah, it's like, okay, whatever.
Let's go to the Potato Bowl again.
But if this team gets there, obviously there's a lot that can happen between now and then. But if it gets here, it gets to that point, I would be excited to see this team get there, considering all the other stuff that's gone on, that this interim coach, 33 years old, youngest coach in FBS, is able to get through all the other BS that's happened off the field to get this team there. I would be excited about it. And I think watching them play against USC had me very doubtful that a bowl was in contention. I was adjusting my 6-6 down to 5-7. But after week 3 and seeing how Utah State played and seeing how much of the rest of the Mountain West has played, I've now revised it the opposite direction and feeling like Utah State could legitimately get to 7-5 without really having to be too out there on some of these projections.
So I want to reference a couple of projections I made, and we'll kind of analyze this after, where I looked at K Ford. They're basically two places that had a kind of a game-by-game or overall record kind of projection, where as of right now, after week 3, where do they have the Aggies finishing? So ESPN and K Ford. Let's go ahead and start with K Ford. They're at the top of the pile here. Their record projection for Utah State, it still only sits at 5-7, and they go down to decimals, so it's actually 5.0 to 7.0. So on the dot at 5-7, the percent chance they give for the Aggies to win at least 6 games is 35%, as opposed to 65% chance that they win at least 5 games. So, and the likelihood of hitting on the dot, the highest chance for any win total they give is 5 wins at a 31% chance that they hit that on the dot. And ESPN, pretty similar on the overall win-loss projection. They have the Aggies, and I feel like this might have dropped because I feel like it was around 5-7, but they've got 4.7 to 7.4.
Wow.
So they have the Aggies potentially doing worse than 5-7.
That's crazy.
Which is a little interesting because when I look at the game-by-game projections, their win-loss, like percent chance to win this game, K Ford has Utah State favored to win 5 of their remaining games. ESPN actually has Utah State favored in 6 of their remaining games. Now, it's not by a lot, because a lot of these games, like their best win chance that either of these two give is K Ford. They've got Utah State 70% chance to beat Temple, 74% chance to beat New Mexico. Most of the other games they're favored in, it's like 65, 61, mid-50s, low 50s. So basically all these winnable games they see as coin flip, and they see the Aggies probably losing as many of these coin flip games as they have them winning.
Well, and there's I can statistically I can understand why somebody might come out with that. Slow start against Robert Morris, blowout against USC. You lose by 17 to Utah. But what we saw against Utah was, and in the second half against Robert Morris, is a team that can get up and down the field, can make some defensive stands. The question is, that game against Utah, the game that is giving us hope, is it mirage because it was a rivalry game or an in-state game with a lot of extra emotion on the line? Can Utah State replicate that against many of their other opponents? We're going to learn that on Saturday. Was that how they played offensively and defensively the real thing? Or was that just how they played against an in-state team with a lot of familiarity on the line?
See, and that's where I think we're going to learn, on that front is where we're going to learn the most about this Utah State team. Is we've seen the glimpses of what this team can be. We've seen glimpses of the team that Nate Dreiling says can score anytime they touch the ball. But we've never seen it for more than like a quarter. We've never seen them put together, even sometimes back-to-back quarters of great play. They played good late first quarter, most of the second quarter against Utah. They played good for the third and fourth quarter, like mostly the third quarter against Robert Morris. They didn't really play good in any quarter against USC, but no. We've seen bits and pieces, a quarter here, a half there, of Utah State playing well. Okay, that's nice and all, and we can talk about how we see these positives, and we'll go on about how we feel like the Aggies are on an upswing because of all the moral victories you want to list off against Utah. But it's got to come together at some point, because Utah State last year, they showed glimpses plenty of times, but then they never put it together. They never put together the full 4 quarters, especially on defense. Offense would play good for a quarter. They'd score touchdowns, and they'd throw 2 picks in a quarter. And so with Utah State, the biggest thing here is put together 60 minutes of a football game against Temple, or at least like 50, 55 minutes. Because it's really hard to put together a completely perfect 60-minute football game.
Right.
But have it be most of the game. More than 3 quarters ideally. Or if you play really well for 3 quarters, have that 1 quarter where you're not perfect, at least be okay. Don't come out in the first quarter and go down 21-0 and then rally to make it a close game, maybe even win. Like, play good for the entire game, because if the Aggies never do that, then we're going to spend the entire rest of the season talking about the positives here and the positives there, and yet they're going to be 1-5 to start the season.
Yeah, it's it's really not that different from what we predicted at the start of the year.
It's not different at all.
No, it's that we really wouldn't know what this team is about. Maybe even in 6 weeks, 6 games into the season. I think we'll learn a lot this Saturday. But you look at the schedule and the teams that they've faced, it's hard to really know what this team is. And they've been different every game. So that's part of the challenge too, is can they be consistent? Can we really know the identity of this team week to week? Temple's going to give the Aggies a good chance to illustrate who they are, or who they want to be, because Temple struggles in a lot of areas, and Utah State should be able to take advantage of that. But we'll see. Temple's also a team that's been historically last several years bad, but their first 3 weeks, they're getting better and better, more competitive. So it's not a team that's just going to be a pushover, even though they're ranked 132 or 133 out of 134 teams.
But are they going to put together a full 4 quarters? Because they're facing those exact same problems.
Right. Yes.
Both of these teams are imperfect teams with flaws. Who's going to come out and fix their flaws the quickest or the best? That's going to be who comes away with the win in this game. Is you have 2 flawed teams. Neither of them have a win against an FBS team. So go out there and get your first FBS win. 8577 on the Full Court Press text line asking, is there any chance we can beat Boise State or UNLV this year?
Yes.
K Ford says
1% is still a chance.
K Ford says 5% chance to beat Boise State.
5.
And
single digits.
UNLV gives 16%.
Yeah, there's a chance. It's very slim.
If there's one that I'd target, it would be the UNLV game. That's one where I know right now I think my own power rankings, I put them at the top because of some great performances. But it's a home game. You got it on Merlin Olsen Field. These have been close games, whether either team is good or bad. These have been close games over the last few meetings. So I'm not going to say it's going to be a close game, but I think that's the one you may be targeting. It's a little easier. The game at Boise, like Utah State, I don't think Utah State has won at Boise like this century. I don't think. I think the last time they won at Boise was in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken.
When they were in the Big West.
Yeah, so I wouldn't give too much of a chance they win. I'll have a much better idea after Temple, and the Aggies will have the benefit of coming off of a bye week going up against Boise. They'll be healthier. They'll have obviously an extra week of preparation. The Broncos will not. Of course, the Broncos I think are playing an FCS team this week, so they may be able to.
I know they had a bye week this last.
Yeah, they had their own bye week this last week, and I think they're playing an FCS team. I'd have to go double check exactly who they're playing, but either way, they have a game this week. They do also have a week.
They're playing Portland State.
Yeah, an FCS team.
The team that had to cancel their previous game because of whooping cough.
Canceling games for disease, something that hasn't happened in 4 years.
Few years.
It's not been that long. Yeah. But yeah, that's the thing. Utah State, they're gonna be favored slightly, and I think a lot of in plenty of the games going forward, they're obviously favored against Temple. They're likely going to be favored against New Mexico. Might be a slight underdog at Wyoming. We'll see with how the Cowboys progress because they're going to be at home. But maybe the Aggies be favored. But then the Aggies are probably going to be favored against Hawaii, San Diego State, and maybe even Colorado State. But it's all going to be close. And they're essentially going to be coin flip games. You have there are at least 6 more wins on this schedule that aren't like, you don't have to upset Washington State or UNLV or Boise State. You can win. You got Temple, New Mexico, Wyoming, Hawaii, San Diego State, Colorado State. That's 6, isn't it? Am I doing my math wrong? Yeah, that's 6 wins.
Yeah.
7 wins is very much on the table. It means
Absolutely.
you got to win every one of these coin flip games. But if the Aggies show that improvement, a 7-win season is on the table as long as you don't drop the ball.
Based on the games that I watched here and there, I admit I didn't watch them from start to finish, but the games that I was able to see or check in on Saturday for a lot of those games involving future Utah State opponents, I was underwhelmed. And I feel like Utah State, if they play to their potential, which we know they can do, if they can hit on their key notes offensively and defensively, they'll have every opportunity to win those games. There's some games I thought, probably not when we were doing our preseason stuff. But now it's like, I think they probably can. So I think there is definitely a path for Utah State getting to 7 wins, and that's a huge accomplishment for Nate Dreiling.
Yeah, and I think 6 wins, if you drop one of these games, say you lose in the finale at Colorado State or drop one at Wyoming, like every home game they play at this point, they should be winning every home game with like UNLV maybe being the one exception. They should be winning the rest of their home games. Again, with the potentially one exception. But we do need to hit a break. And when we come back, let's focus a little bit more on this Temple game, but hear from some of the players, their perspective. Eric, you got to talk with Jordan Vincent, Otto Tia, so we'll hear what they have to say on this. So we'll have that coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
Have you thought about your furnace lately? Of course not. It's hot outside. Now's a great time to start thinking about replacing it or having it serviced for fall and winter. Advanced Heating and Air will help you get some of the industry's best rebates on a new high-efficient York furnace installed in your home. Or one of Advanced Heating and Air's service professionals can service your furnace for the upcoming winter season. Call today, 752-7272, or schedule a free estimate at advancedheating-ac.com. York, install confidence.
This is Ryan, My Mattress. I have a little bit of a bone to pick with online bed-in-a-box mattresses. If value is the combination of price and quality, these beds are not a good value. They cost about $1,000 and they last about 3 years. That's not a very good ratio. At My Mattress, you can get a $799 Sealy Posturepedic that will last you 10 plus years. The best value is at My Mattress. Isn't it time to sleep exceptionally?
Fall is here. This is Mark at the Sportsman on Main Street. I invite you into our amazing store to see the new fall collection of amazing clothing, shoes, and outerwear for women and men. We have brands like Cool, Fiore, Fjallraven, and we have brought in some new brands from Europe that you will love. Trust me, you will look truly unique in whatever you buy from the Sportsman. Come in and let us take care of you. You'll be glad you did. For over 75 years, come and see us at the Sportsman on Main in downtown Logan with tons of parking in the back.
Join the show by calling 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Crystal Vision is a 4-time gold medal winner in the Best of Northern Utah. You can stop in today with your prescription and let Crystal Vision fit your glasses to you. You can find them on 14th North by Sportsman Warehouse. You can also find them at crystalvision.com. It's Crystal with a K instead of a C, crystalvision.com. So, Erica, you scooted on up to practice yesterday.
Yes,
had
a scoot.
Yes, a scoot. And had a chance to talk with a couple of different players. Players that were, played big roles last week. Obviously, Otto Tia having himself a big game. And Jordan Vincent, who's been obviously a big player for the entire season. Two very important players. And so let's go ahead and hear from them. Let's start with Otto Tia. and what he had to say when talking with Eric Frandsen yesterday after practice.
Okay, Otto Tia, great game last week against Utah. Career
Thank
game
you.
for you in
Yes.
catches and yards. How'd that feel for you?
It felt really good. Just being able to see the hard work that me and my team put in, and our team put in, to be able to just go out there and perform. It felt really good to be able to just finally showcase what I can do and things like that. But just got to build off of it and keep getting better.
So what's been the difference for you to kind of break through and have the kind of game that you had Saturday?
Honestly, the difference was just the game plan. The coaches put in a really good game plan against Utah, and I feel like all we had to do was go out there and execute it. And like you guys saw, there were some times where we executed it really good and made really big plays. So it was just really based on what we went through the whole week, all the preparation that we had, and knowing that those looks were going to be there, and all I had to do was really just catch the ball, and that's about it.
You've had your journey here, where you had the spring of 23. Things are looking pretty good, and,
Yes.
and then the fall camp of 23, but we don't see you on the field very much.
Yes.
But you hang in there, and we're starting to see you come back and
Yes.
play like the guy that we've seen in practices before.
Right.
So just your journey, how gratifying is that for you to get there?
So, yeah, going into the spring of 23, I felt really confident going into fall camp, and coming out of fall camp, I also felt really confident as well. But after our week 1 against Iowa, I actually tore my hamstring. So that's why you didn't see me out there a lot. And that was kind of a repetitive injury that just kept happening over and over. And I wasn't really able to overcome it that year. But this year I feel a lot better, and hamstring feels good. Hopefully it stays good, you know what I'm saying? But, yeah, that's pretty much what happened. And it's just great to finally be able to, like I said, showcase my talent and help us win games and just, help the team be better.
You're somebody who has that ability to use your size to post up or get the right spot where you want on the field. How do you, or I guess maybe the question really is how Coach Cefalo is helping you kind of maximize your natural skills and abilities and just take that to that next level for you?
Yes. Something that Coach Temple always tells me is that you're bigger, stronger, and probably faster than a lot of dudes you're going to go up against. So he just wants me to show that while I'm out there, because he's seen me since I was young. I came here as a freshman. Coach Temple was my first coach and my only coach, receivers coach. So he's seen me grow up, and he's helped me a lot with being able to use how big I am, how strong I am, and how fast I am on the field. He just helps me build in that confidence and just to be that better player that he knows that I can be.
What are you seeing so far in Temple and what they try to do defensively? And I know they've got a pretty good linebacker.
Yes.
It's a team that's kind of had a rough start, but they seem to be progressively getting better as the season goes on.
Yeah, so Temple is a really good team. The record may not show it, but, their defense is really good. Their corners, they play aggressive. They like to play a lot of man, and, we just got to be able to be ready for that, because they're not – they have something to prove, so they're going to come after us, and they're going to be, aggressive and things like that. So we just got to be ready to prepare for it.
I guess, how would you assess how USU's offense is progressing too?
So, yeah, our offense is progressing. We're getting better and better every week as the week go on. Yeah, we had that first game, came out with the dub, but it didn't seem like we got what we wanted, but we had around 600 yards of offense. So that's something really good. And then USC, that was just a learning curve for us. And also Utah, that we're able to play with those guys. We just need to be able to execute at a higher level and perform to the best of our abilities, because that's what we got to be, is our best when playing teams like that.
Cool. Well, best of luck in Philadelphia.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay.
So that's Otto Tia, wide receiver for Utah State. Yeah, stepping into a big role. He was kind of supposed to that last season. Injuries kind of impacted that. But
yeah, we never really knew why we didn't see him on the field. We were praising him, excited about him. He was in our top 25, ranked pretty highly in our lists. Yeah. A lot of anticipation to see Otto Tia on the field, and then we never did. Now we know why those hamstring injuries can be problematic and easy to re-aggravate. So happy to see him healthy and and getting back to form and showing people who didn't get to see him like we did in some of those practices that this is a guy that can be a real impact wide receiver for Utah State with his size and talent. And just seeing him, he's made some little mistakes in some of these games that he's learning from as he's getting his first real taste of football at this level. But we've also seen him grow quickly, and certainly is illustrated by the impact that he had in the Utah game.
Yeah, definitely a big impact there. Let's have another player that made a big impact. He's made a big impact all season. We expected him to make it a big impact. This is a guy who was also on our top 25 Aggies, mentioned Jordan Vincent, one of the leaders of the defense. And Eric, you had a chance to talk with him as well.
Jordan Vincent, you're having a great start to this season. Every game you've played so far for the Aggies, you're double digits in tackles. I mean, you're a beast out there. What's that been like for you in this transition from your journey to a place like Utah State?
Yeah, I would say it's been quite an interesting journey so far. I feel like you can't let your highs get too high, your lows get too low. Just staying kind of even keel, and what you did last week or last year doesn't account for what you got to do this week. So as much as you want to sit and like have people sing your praises, I feel like you got to rinse it and move on to the next week and be sharp, be on your keys, and go out there and execute week after week.
You've been an impact player in games against USC and Utah. What was that like experience for you going up against two top 15 teams in the country in back-to-back weeks, no less?
Mm-hmm. I would say it's kind of hard because, ultimately you want team success, and we fell short both weeks. So I've not really tried to, like, sit here and look into, like, my individual stats. I just want to keep finding ways to, like, grow as a player and help the team ultimately, like, achieve our goals because, yeah, they're a top 15 team, but, I mean, we feel like in our hearts and in this locker room that, like, we could go out there and win games like that. So just coming back and learning from our mistakes and just trying to find better ways to accomplish our goals.
How gratifying was it for you to get that interception?
Yeah, I would say that was a little bit of a long time coming because last year I had no takeaways, and that was something that I've been trying to emphasize throughout the offseason is, like, getting that ball. So, I mean, I feel like it was a good way to get the season started. It's a little bit early in the season, so just get the ball rolling, and hopefully we have more to come.
Just starting. It's not capstoning. You're going to have more to come, right?
Yes, sir.
So you're going up against a team in Temple that's had a hard time holding on to the ball. They've had like 5 interceptions and 6 fumbles that they've given up on the season. As a secondary, does that give you guys like big eyes that maybe there's going to be some opportunity for some more opportunities for takeaways on Saturday?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing with that is ultimately like doing your job. Like if you're in the right places, the plays will come to you. So not trying to overstep your boundaries just because they may have had a little bit of struggles in previous weeks. I feel like if you hone in on your keys and you do your job, that the plays will come to you. You just got to execute them.
They do have some talented wide receivers, it looks like. What are you seeing so far kind of generally about their offense and some of the talent that you're going to be going up against?
Yeah, I'm just watching the film so far. I mean, they have players, and it's kind of hard to just judge people off of like their schedule and like previous games because those opponents aren't us, and so they may find different ways to come out and attack us. And also, I mean, they've had some hard games. They play Oklahoma week 1, which is not an easy opponent. So just giving them the respect that they deserve and going in and treating every opponent the same.
For you coming in a short amount of time, establishing yourself as a leader among the team, there's a lot of new faces on this team, but there's a lot of other veteran guys here too. And how have you kind of felt like you've kind of assimilated into the culture here and also helped lead the culture as one of the newer voices here?
Yeah, I would say just the nature of college football now is kind of hard because you only have such a short time frame like in the off season to really like find your identity and build your culture, and you can't really have any type of like animosity towards other players coming in or players that have already been here. So I feel like the guys that were here, they did a good job embracing me as a player and helping me find my way throughout the team, and then the other guys coming in trusting me as a player and as a teammate. And I feel like that's really just been like the biggest thing is like everybody we have here is a good person. They've really bought into the culture that we have. So
you're a quarter of the way through the season, which seems weird already. But how do you feel like the defense is coming along where you guys want it to be and what you've experienced so far?
Yeah, I would say week to week so far, I feel like we've improved every week. Obviously, we had not the greatest game versus USC, but I feel like we fought back and improved a lot against Utah, and just continuing to hit our stride, because the championships aren't won in September. So as long as we keep getting better, like, all our goals are still in front of us. So.
Very good. Jordan Vincent, thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Utah State safety Jordan Vincent, one of the leaders, if not the leader.
He is the leader in tackles through 3 games.
So, obviously, a very important player for the Aggies on defense, and looking for another big game as the Aggies try to improve on defense. They've allowed 48 points and 38 points in the last 2 games. Try to improve on that. They allowed only 14 in their season opener. That was to an FCS team, so their average points allowed against FBS teams is 44 and a half.
It's a lot.
I don't know what the math is on that. Whatever 48 divided by 2 is, whatever the middle point is. So a lot of big things expected of those guys. Let's take a break. And when we come back, we're going to hear from Nate Dreiling a little bit, maybe Stan Drayton from Temple, kind of get their views of each other, essentially, each other's teams, what they have to say about their respective opponents. And we'll have that coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent with Alpine Home Medical. I'd like to invite you to learn more about us. Since 1997, we've been Utah's premier one-stop shop for home medical equipment. What sets us apart at Alpine Home Medical is the superior level of customer service. We provide home oxygen, CPAPs, wheelchairs, scooters, breast pumps, and so much more. Come on down and get to know us.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Visit alpinehomemedical.com.
The patio is open. The chips are endless. Drinks on tap. You know it's got to be Cafe Sabor, Cache Valley's best Mexican restaurant, gold winner in the Best of Northern Utah contest. Experience Locals Day every Thursday with a huge burrito, endless chips and soda, only $7.95. That's a complete lunch for just $7.95. Finding any lunch under $10 is nearly impossible. Every Thursday, drinks, chips, and massive burrito, just $7.95. The patio, the sun, the fun at Cafe Sabor in the historic train station on 6th Weston Center in Logan.
Hi, this is Ashley with LSS Insurance. Are you getting ready to retire but your spouse isn't 65 yet? We can help. We focus on health insurance so we can provide you the best possible service and information. Come the 3rd Thursday, September 19th at 7 p.m. to our free seminar. We'll empower you with the information to make a confident decision. Call 752-9493. Come see us at LSS Insurance the 3rd Thursday, September 19th. At 7 p.m.
It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
435-339-0321. That's the number to text in. Join us via the Full Court Press text line here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan. Jason Walker, Eric Frandsen here with you, previewing Utah State going up against Temple. We just heard from a couple of players, Jordan Vincent, Otto. Let's hear a little bit from the coaches as well. We had a chance to talk with Nate Dreiling on Monday, obviously, in his Monday Zoom press conference. Asked him a little bit about Temple, what they bring offensively, what they bring defensively. Of course, one key thing is the fact that Temple is improving, at least when it comes to just kind of looking at the score line, where they lost by a bunch to Oklahoma, by not as much to, I suddenly can't remember who it was in their second game.
It was
Coastal Carolina last week.
It was Navy.
Navy, that's right.
Yes,
it was by
Navy.
less to Navy, and then by only 8 points to Coastal Carolina. And so Nate Dreiling, talks about this Temple team is one that is definitely improving.
I think you look at their identity, right? Just from the Oklahoma game to the Coastal Carolina game, they feel way more comfortable. They're more tuned in on what they want to do and the personnel that they're playing. And just like anybody, everyone's improving right now. It doesn't matter who you play. If as long as you're getting better than you were yesterday, you're always going to have a chance. And it's going to come down to how tough we want to be, how we handle this long road trip. right, and eliminating RMAs and stay out of our own way. And if we can do that, I think we're going to have a chance.
Yeah, so this isn't a Temple team to overlook, and I've kind of said that a couple of times because you look at the record and you look at the rankings. I mentioned we went through our 1 through 134 rankings, kind of those where they have Temple, and they pretty much all agree that Temple is either a bottom 2 or bottom 3 team in the country. Well, you just can't assume that you're just going to walk into Philadelphia and roll them over and walk out with a win. Utah State has its own things it needs to fix, and Temple is working on the things that they need to fix, getting closer and closer to a win, and so that's something to watch out for. I know the offense hasn't done particularly well, averaging only 11 points per game, although Nate Dowling is, you're basically contractually obligated to praise the opposing offense to some degree.
They only get a field goal in the opener. They get 11 points against Navy. They did score 20 against Coastal Carolina, so you can see they're producing more every week.
Yeah. So here's what Nate Dowling had to say about Temple's offense.
Well, their quarterback, got hurt in the Navy game, so now they're playing 2 quarterbacks, not sure which one's going to be in or not. One's a better runner, one's a better passer, so it's kind of where teams prepare for Utah State, which guy is going to be playing and how does that affect their offense. But they're close on some things. They're kind of like us. They have guys open, they just haven't been able to capitalize when they've needed to. So it's going to be, as always, we have to stop the run. We have to make sure that 5 doesn't beat us. And just more so fix our communication, fix our MAs on defense. And if we can do that, then we got a chance to be good.
Then defensively, some improvement. Going from 50 to 36 in the second game to 28. It was like 51 against Oklahoma.
51 defensively. They gave up 51, 38, and 28.
No, I was off by a couple points there. 51, 38, 28. But here's what Nate Dowling had to say about Temple's defense as well.
Yeah, they're gonna be a 4-man front. They love cover 1. They love some quarter stuff. But the biggest thing is their speed. They're very, very, very fast. They have unbelievable athletes. Impressed with their defensive line play. So it's gonna be having to win your one-on-ones, kind of just like it was last week, right? So we got to make sure, 1, our guys get healthy. 2, we're putting the ball in place where only our guys can get it to make sure we protect the football. And then if it is a wide box and they try to cover the outside guys, we have to be able to run. So our O-line is getting so much better, and they had a great back-to-back week. So Razul averaging over 6 yards a carry for the last 2 games. So if we can continue to win our one-on-one matchups on the outside and keep our run game rolling as is, right, then our offense has a chance to really take off.
So the thing that interested me most about that was Temple's speed, because that's where the Aggies have tried to have their advantage. You look at the speed of Jalen Royals, Kyrese White, even Razul Faison, where they've got guys who are fast, and that's where they can often win one-on-one matchups is with their speed. They were able to even get behind some of the Utah defenders, even if it was only half a step. It was half a step beyond some very good corners and defensive backs that Utah has. Can Temple match that? If that's their advantage as well as they have speed, then Utah State's going to have to win through some physicality as well. Can Otto be physical? Can Razul Faison and the offensive line in general, can they play physical and beat a Temple team if the Aggies don't have as much of a speed advantage as they tend to rely on? So I think that'll be a key matchup here for the Aggies.
Yeah, that's really where it comes down to it for me is the Temple defense versus the Utah State offense. What does that really look like? Are they going to pose a threat? Are they going to try to get after it? And can Utah State impose its will upon the Owls and keep them guessing? Can they utilize the tight ends? Do they need to keep them guessing? Can they establish a run strong enough where it doesn't really matter? So that's going to be the interesting part for me on Saturday to see how Utah State offensively attacks Temple.
Now let's hear a little bit of what Temple's head coach Stan Drayton said about Utah State. This one about a minute or so. Audio quality is kind of, I had to jack up the audio a little bit, so may sound there might be a little background hum there, but I thought it was interesting what he had to say about Utah State. So let's hear that.
Utah State has had to overcome a bunch of adversity, right? They've got a lot of new things going on, and they've got setbacks just like we have setbacks. But the one thing I noticed is that they keep playing hard. They present some issues on their defense with the way they pressure. It seems like a whole lot. Utah when they played Utah, they heat Utah up pretty good. You know, it took a minute for Utah to get going. So we do have to get prepared for their pressure package. You know, but they have a really good linebacker, number one, who diagnoses, tackles. He's good in coverage. He's good against the run. He's a very good football player. Offensively, this quarterback, I know he's a backup quarterback, but he is an athletic joker, excuse me. They run their offense very, very fast. This is probably the fastest tempo that we've seen since I've been here. I mean, you turn the film on and the chain crew is barely getting lined up before they're snapping the ball. You know, that's going to present some issues if our eyes are not in the right place, the communication is not on point. You know, we don't have a whole lot of time for dialogue, and that's going to be the challenge this week against Utah State.
So, yeah, a lot of the same stuff we tend to hear from opposing coaches where they talk about the speed of the offense. Of course, we didn't see the speed as much against USC, but it did pretty much return going up against Utah, where they were up on the line a lot quicker, snapping the ball quickly a lot more often. And Temple's going to be preparing for that. Of course, they got a lot of questions. The media always talk about, you know, how do you guys prepare? You get kind of the same stock answers.
Right.
With all that is, oh, you can't simulate the speed, but you try. One interesting thing, and there were a couple of other clips where he mentions Bryson Barnes, and he was asked about Bryson Barnes. It seems like they're just preparing for him. Now, there probably is some preparation for Spencer Petras, but the way he talked, it seems like he's kind of narrowing in on Bryson Barnes being the guy that Utah State goes out with.
Well, yeah, I can understand why. I mean, you only saw a quarter and a half of Spencer Petras.
You've seen 15 pass attempts from Petras.
Yeah, you've seen a lot. There's a lot more video of Bryson Barnes in an Aggie jersey than there is of Spencer Petras in an Aggie jersey under center. So that's probably the guy you prepare for. He's the guy who's supposedly healthy, though he hurt his throwing arm, his forearm late in the game against Utah. But understandable, but that could be a mistake if that's the only guy they focus on.
Yeah, now there were a couple of questions asked of Nate Dreiling about Spencer Petras. Kind of first, the health, and fairly tight-lipped as always was Nate Dreiling, but here's what he had to say about that.
It's good. We will find out. He was close to 100% last week, but just wasn't quite there yet, so haven't seen him yet this morning, but I would think that he's going to be practicing pretty close to full speed. So hopefully we will have him available, and that gives us two options right there. And we'll see who comes out with a better week of practice to determine that. But hopefully, like I said, Spencer gets closer to 100% every single day. And if he does, then look out. I think teams will have two quarterbacks to prepare for that bring a whole different element to the offense.
And after hearing that, I think it was either me or I can't remember who asked this follow-up question, but it's like, that almost sounds like Bryson Barnes is making a bid for the starting job. So that's the follow-up question. Is Spencer Petras still the quarterback one at Utah State?
Well, it's just the big thing is, I mean, Spencer came out of camp our starting quarterback, right? He is our starting quarterback if he's 100%. So it's not so much, it's more so how close is Spencer and what he can physically do. Can he not run? Can he run? Is he only good in the pocket? So it's just what kind of offensive game plan we come up with and how it fits him in particular. But he's still our quarterback one, but all that depends on his ankle, as we know.
So yeah, a healthy Spencer Petras is the starting quarterback at Utah State, but it's, can he have a full week of practice where he's ready? And, does he have a good week of preparation? Because if he doesn't, then they may decide that Bryson Barnes is the better option, because he might have, he'll have had maybe a better week of practice and is not as, physically limited as Petras might be if that ankle is still bothering him and preventing him from preparing the way that they want him to.
Yeah, he was the best thrower, best looking quarterback in the spring. He was the best thrower, best looking quarterback in the fall. There's a reason Spencer Petras was the starter on opening day, and unfortunately it was cut short a little bit. But if he's healthy, he should be the starter against Temple. Bryson Barnes brings a lot of nice things, but Spencer is just the more accurate thrower, and I think he's got a little more zip on the ball. So I think he gives Utah State a better chance to run the offense they want to run under center. And so if he's healthy, he should be the guy.
All right, we got to hit one more break, and then we'll wrap up the show. Coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
This is Jay with Daryl's Appliance. Here are the top 3 reasons to buy from Daryl's. Number 1, Daryl's has the best pricing and save more with exclusive mail-in rebates up to $600 extra. Number 2, introducing a 2-year parts and labor warranty on all appliances when delivered and installed by us. That's security. Number 3, if something goes wrong, Daryl's factory-trained in-house techs service everything we sell. From the service to the sale, an installed Daryl's Appliance does it all. Daryl's, west on Airport Road, open until 6 p.m. on weekdays, 5 on Saturday.
This is Kyle at Advanced Door, and we guarantee every garage door we install for a lifetime, parts and labor. That's every door, every spring, every roller, every track, every motor. The entire garage door system guaranteed for a lifetime, parts and labor. We're Advanced Door, and we guarantee you'll be hearing this for a long time. Find out more at advanced-door.com. That's advanced-door.com.
It has been said there are 2 seasons, football season and waiting for football season. Because we are Aggie fans, we'll be there when USU kicks off this new era with a new coach and a new quarterback. Locker 42 is where Aggie fans prepare for the game. T-shirts, hoodies, jackets, hats, and other assorted apparel, all emblazoned with the Aggie logo. Aggie fans are forever hopeful, dedicated, even resilient. Locker 42, a store for Aggie fans by Aggie fans.
Disasters don't wait for a convenient time. When the unexpected strikes, call the trusted team at Blue Sky. Remember, Blue Sky is that same great ARS team you know and trust.
This is Tom with Blue Sky Restoration. When disaster strikes, whether it's a flood, fire, mold damage, or an unforeseen accident, Blue Sky will clean up, repair, and restore your home or business like it was before. No disaster is too big or too small. For all your restoration needs, you can trust our Blue Sky team.
The Aggies, Jazz, high schools, even the Pee Wees T-ball team. It's the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, The Fan.
Final segment here on the Full Court Press. Thank you so much for joining us. If you couldn't catch all of the show, feel free to check us out on our podcast feed. You can find it on 1069thefan.com or pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts. That's where you can find us. We've talked realignment a lot. It's been a huge discussion topic and will remain to be a discussion topic in the near future, especially here on the Conference Realignment and Expansion Show. Here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
It's a real name.
Yeah, it's definitely a real name that we definitely use all the time. Chris Murray had an interesting article you pointed out. I hadn't quite seen it yet, but kind of just a bunch of bullet points on different things as far as trying to track the latest reports from around the web. You go on social media and you believe anything from South Florida, UConn, Gonzaga, and St. Mary's are going to be in the Pac-12 to, they may not be able to get any more members. They may not be able to convince anybody else to join them. Or the Mountain West is just going to be a reverse merger. Like, there's anything you want, any take you want, you can find it online. But trying to track down the more credible reports is the job that Murray was trying to pull off.
Yeah, it's on nevadasportsnet.com. Chris Murray does a nice job of reporting about the Mountain West as a whole, based in Reno, and kind of under the lens of how does this affect the Nevada Wolfpack. But his article today kind of goes through a few interesting points that debunks maybe some of these rumors. And one was that the reason the Pac-12 didn't initially invite UNLV to join them was because Nevada was kind of shackled to them. It's a take them both or no one goes kind of a deal. And his report debunks that with reports from some members of the Board of Regents and some quotes from people in Clark County saying, no, there's nothing that ties them together. In fact, they've been apart more than they've been together in conferences, so nothing has changed. So if UNLV got an invite to go, there's nothing that Nevada in Reno, University of Nevada, could do to really stop that. But one thing that may be slowing it down is that Nevada or UNLV apparently has like $21 million in debt in its athletics department. But Also kind of shedding the light, too, that, and I'd kind of overlooked this and not thought about it, is that if the AAC is targeting Air Force to join them, Air Force is going to be on the hook for an $18 million exit fee. The schools leaving for the Pac-12, there's an assumption that the Pac-12 will help cover those costs because they're sitting on a big pile of cash. It's really uncertain if the AAC would do the same for Air Force because they don't have that kind of resource.
Yeah, they're not sitting on a giant pile of cash.
So Air Force would be on the hook. So do they really want to pay that to exit? So it may not be quite the foregone conclusion that we first initially thought. And with Tulane and Memphis, do they really want to leave the AAC, which has a pretty healthy media distribution amount, versus high uncertainty what the Pac-12 might be able to get? So that it may be safer for them just to stay put.
Yeah, people are assuming that it's going to be probably about as good, maybe slightly better than the AAC. Of course, the trick with the AAC is that its next media deal isn't going to be as good because the one they have now was made with teams like Cincinnati, Houston, like
Central Florida.
Yeah, a lot of those teams that have since moved on
large
to
media markets.
Yeah, teams have gone to the Big 12, so their next media deal isn't going to be as good. And maybe Memphis and Tulane, kind of the two main targets at the moment, and teams that are having talks with the Pac-12 supposedly this week, or maybe even recently. I don't know exactly the timeline for all this, but if they kind of see that writing on the wall and think that the Pac-12 is going to be a better option, they may leave. But there's some convincing left to do, at least according to The Athletic, where their reports is that Tulane and Memphis aren't at least yet sold, although that's not to say they won't be sold on a plan from the Pac-12. If they can be successfully wooed, then that obviously hurts the AAC, and then it makes a lot of the Mountain West schools a lot more nervous because they're maybe banking on the hope that the Pac-12 will just like find a way to take all of them eventually, and that would rely on the Pac-12 striking out on adding any AAC teams.
Right. Memphis right now is fighting with UNLV, incidentally enough, to be the top group of 5 school to make it to the college football playoff. So do they feel like they have an easier path in the Pac-12 to the college football playoff or to stay in the AAC? I don't know that the Pac-12 doesn't have automatic status. So you're still fighting among other schools for that one spot.
Yeah, still got to win the conference. Still got to get the high ranking.
Is it worth the payout that you have to, and the
expense?
The expense, right, to have to move conferences and extra travel to be more on the West Coast?
Yeah, so those are the things they're going to be weighing. And if you're Utah State, you're probably very much hoping that Memphis and Tulane decide not to go. Because, again, that increases the chances that, the Mountain West or at least Utah State ends up in a slightly better situation.
Because you're in better time zones, you're in better TV windows if you stay in the American Athletic instead of going to the Pac-12.
Yeah, and if the AAC can, add an Air Force, maybe they end up adding, like if the Mountain West collapses, maybe they add some of the remnants of the Mountain West, which, who knows, may include Utah State. Maybe Utah State ends up in the AAC. That would be weird, but it's a possibility.
Possible. And apparently also his report says the Mountain West is vetting UTEP and Texas State, also keeping an eye on Sacramento State, who's trying to put together pretty hefty fundraising efforts to improve their stadium and become a viable option.
Yeah, so a lot of speculation and a lot of reporting. Some of it's credible, some of it's just rampant speculation going on with realignment. But that's going to do it for us today. Again, thank you so much for listening. Make sure to check us out on our podcast feed and make sure to tune in every day from 4 to 6 p.m. here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
For Sports Talk Radio, KLGN Logan, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.